Welcome, everybody. This is Grizzly. Grizzly's on the hunt with Kelly Joe. How you doing, Kelly?
Good.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I've been really excited about this show. How about you?
Go.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, this is Kelly Joe. Welcome to Biscuit and Tea Mystic. I have Grizzly tonight, and he's quite a celebrity here. He's been all over the place. So I'm going to start the show and ask Grizzly how he got into this. So, how did you get into this, Mr. Grizzly?
Well, I've always been into the super paranormal field, Bigfoot and everything. I tell you, the shows when I was growing up and everything always had me hooked. I can't say it didn't. And then my paranormal experiences with family members coming back. I never forget, I must have been like 14 or 15. And my grandmother and I was down at Rough River. And some reason I woke up. And when I did, I looked out on the porch, through the curtains, because we had a big long porch, down at the lake, and the door for you to get into the porch, the door, it kind of scraped the bottom, but it had bells on it too. So you would have to make a lot of noise and the bells would go off too to get into the porch, but we always kept the door locked. And I'm looking, I'm like, there's a guy out there smoking a cigarette on the porch. I'm like, how did he get out there? And when he went and drew a puff off cigarette, I looked, and it was my grandfather that just passed away not too long ago. I'm like, no, there's no way. So I sat there and I got up, then I moved the curtain a little, and he drew another puff. I'm like, that's my grandfather. What the? Grandma, wake up, wake up, wake up. She's like, what? What? It's like, Grandpa's on the porch. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, look, look. And she went over and looked. She said, there's nobody out there. And I went and looked. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, look, I'm telling you, he was out there smoking a cigarette. And she told me that she has, since he's passed, a lot of paranormal going on at her house. Crucifixes flying off the wall, landing at her feet. He's always a prankster, okay? So I have to throw that out there. Always a prankster. But yeah, that's how I got involved into it.
So you're very aware and you can see dead people, so you have mediumshipping abilities.
Yeah, now let me tell you something. Whatever it's called, I have no idea. But I interviewed a guy the other day on the show, and for 20 minutes, I knew exactly what he was going to say, how he was going to say it, the tone he was going to say it, and the way he was going to use his body while he was saying it. And it was like 7 seconds ahead of him. And it freaked me out so bad. I just sit there and I was like, okay, act normal. Act normal. You're live. You got to act normal here. Don't freak out yet. I wanted to jump up and run, and I'm trying to sit here, act normal on the camera. And I'm hearing everything he's getting ready to say before he says it. And it was like deja vu. I mean, to the tone and his head movements and his hands and everything. I mean, that totally freaked me out. That really did.
Well, you're very, very aware. You've always been that way since kidhood. So,
really?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you this, I've been on the hunt for psychics and mediums for quite a while. And here's why. I'm really fascinated about what they are capable of doing, such like people like you with the abilities. And I always been fascinated about, when they found out they had them and what they do with them. And, and I found out most of them had difficulty growing up and so forth. And of course, I know you have your story as well, but yeah, that's how I got into Bigfoot and the paranormal fields. I grew out in the country, so UFOs was a little bit different for us because it was always dark. So I can say I saw some stuff that was unexplainable, but yes.
I have a resemble that remark.
So if
Got a
anybody's
whole
wondering
class of
why
ghosts
on
from
my
over
end, while
Michigan when
she's
I was a
holding a
kid.
telephone, we're actually doing 2 shows at once. So what other questions do you have for me, Kelly Joe?
Well, the Bigfoot, I want to know about when you saw Bigfoot. What did he look
Now,
like? What did he smell like?
I can tell you from experience, I never have seen one. Now, I interview people that have seen them or her that's been on investigations, expeditions, boots on the ground. I have interviewed people that have them living on their farmland. I know there's approximately 4 different types of Sasquatches in America, so that ought to tell you that they're not all friendly and cuddly and squeezable like Charmin. So keep that in mind. We got a lot of good things coming up this year. I'm in the process of moving back to the country, and that's going to free up a lot of my time to where I can meet people and go on expeditions with them, and actually try to film live the podcast and so forth and see what happens. Now, from my understanding, the smell of Bigfoot is raunchy and nasty, rotten eggs, sour milk, rotten meat, that type of smell. And when you're in the area with one, if one did walk by before you got there, the smell is so bad it will linger there for a few minutes. It's like it hangs in the air.
Yes, they smell horrible. I saw one time when I was camping up in Swanee River. I was in a campsite, and all of a sudden I heard a noise outside, and it took the little Tupperware of chili we had and ate it, and it
Oh yeah.
it stunk up the whole site. It was, and then when I got up the next morning, there was white turkey feathers everywhere. I don't know
Really?
what that was about. That was weird.
I don't know. Sometimes that may be a gift for the chili that they ate or he ate or she ate. They love to gift to people trinkets and feathers, like you said. So that's probably a thank you in return. So, yeah, they are very incredible creatures. Uh, they really are. I've got a story from a hunter. He was up in his tree stand, and it was bow season, and I've got pictures to prove it. And a doe walked out in the field, and it was a good sized doe. He said he drew back and shot. It went right over its back. He's like, "Daggone it, I missed." And he said it really out loud where it echoed. So he got down. He knew it was over for the day, and he went home, and the woods was in his backyard. Well, the next morning he gets up, same time, early in the morning, before sunlight, and he's walking down with his headlamp. And right there at the beginning of his trail, there is a buck laying there with a broken neck.
Wow.
And he's sitting there going, I really appreciate this, guys, but I cannot accept this because the meat's spoiled. So evidently Bigfoot left a deer for him since he missed his. So now the guy was frantic, and he was like, I don't want my neighbors think I'm poaching. So he drug it down the hill and around the creek, and you can see the drag marks and everything. And you can tell, I done looked at the photos, has not been shot, stabbed, anything. And he covered up with those cedar trees and stuff. You know how they are, branches around the creek and everything. He covered it up because he knew that the critters would come by and eventually devour it in nature. And he was up in the stand for about 15, 20 minutes. And he was like, I'm probably not going to see anything today. So as soon as it got daylight, not even a half hour after, as soon as it got daylight, he got down, and he's like, well, instead of me walking all the way around, I said, I'm going to walk the same way I came up. So he gets down out of his tree stand and walks over, and he looks, the deer is gone.
Wow.
No drag marks, no nothing. It's like somebody just picked it up and walked off with it.
Wow.
Now, explain that.
You can't.
No.
You can't.
No, you can't. So it's very
And
interesting.
I hear that they make knocking noises and they throw rocks. That's what I've heard.
Yes, the knocking noises, we do not know what they are meant for. We do not know if they're saying, hey, here I am, to the other ones, or if they're trying to get your attention away from I call it clan, but some people call it family, to get your attention away from the rest of the family, especially if they have small ones. And sometimes I heard people say it's a warning to the other ones that, hey, we got people in here, heads up. So, yes. And they do throw rocks. I've heard of people throwing, not people, a Sasquatch throwing rocks about the size of bowling balls over people's heads into the water. And I've heard them throwing rocks the size of softballs, baseballs, all the way down to actual acorns being tossed and hit in the back.
Wow.
So, yes.
And what other paranormal experiences have you had? Have you had where someplace was haunted?
Oh, let me tell you something. Well, this has been recently. See, my mom and I, we believe in all the psychics and medium stuff. And we believe in the afterlife and ghosts and hauntings. And my dad's like, I don't. I'm like, come on, Dad, you have to believe. I'm telling you, as many as people have I interviewed and seen the pictures and stuff, I'm telling you, this stuff's real. He's like, no, it's all bogus. I was like, Dad, I was like, look, you got the good psychics and the bad psychics, and same thing with the mediums. You got the hoax. I said, don't get me wrong. You got little Johnny out in the middle of the woods at night, drunk, causing havoc in an ape suit. We know it happens. So, but
Totally.
the
How can
reason
you believe
why,
that there isn't other stuff?
yeah, right. So I always tell people, if you draw a line, you're going to have to erase that line and move the line forward more. Because if you believe in one, you have to believe in the other. So my mom's house, I was sitting there, and I was on the couch sitting, And I looked and I watched this shadow go down the hallway. And my mom and dad's got a cuckoo clock in the hallway with the chains, with the not acorns, pine cones, where you pull
Yeah.
down the pine cones or weights to make it tick.
Yes.
And when it walked through the hallway against the wall, it moved the chains. I was like, Mom, get in here. Look, you ought to believe this. She's like, what? What? I was like, I just saw a shadow person. She's like, Mike, I told you. I saw the same thing. I was like, so you already seen it? She's like, yeah. And I was like, unbelievable, man. This is something else. And she talked about, being down at the lake after her dad passed and her mom passed, and how the lights would come on and off when they weren't plugged in. So once again, yes, I've been around a lot of paranormal. And it's at first it's scary if you've never been introduced to it. It really is. It's very scary at first. And like right now, well, not right now, but my daughter moved out, went to college. So, I don't need this place for myself. I'm single. So my commode flushes 3 times in a row at a certain time of night. To me, it's mocking the Trinity 3 times. Now, my commode doesn't have, let me get my hand there, a lever to push down. Mine has got a button on top. You got to hardly press. You got to press a button on top to make it flush. So I was telling my mom about that, and she says, well, you need to call the maintenance man. I'm like, Mom, are you for real? I'm like, I'm sitting on the couch. I can hear it do it back to back. It's like flush, and you hear it drain. You know how I want to say when you hear it drain?
Right.
And it does. Once it drains, it fills up and it flushes again. It fills up and it flushes again, and it stops. Okay, Mom. Yes, this is Grizzly in apartment. No. I need somebody to come over and check out my commode, which is brand new. What's it doing? Oh, it automatically flushes 3 times back to back. Do what? Yes, it flushes itself. Well, it's brand new. I know. Would you send somebody over, please? So the maintenance man, let's say I did call him, comes over. He's already thinks I'm cuckoo, right? Comes over and looks at it, takes it apart, inspects it, and says, Grizzly, there's nothing wrong with this. Are you sure you're hearing what you're hearing? Now I'm going to be the laughing stock of the village. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not calling it in. Nope. Not doing it.
So did you figure out who it was?
Well, the only thing I can think of is it's got to be my grandfather, because he's a jokester and a prankster. He has come back several times. When I was on the police department, I was sitting in my cruiser one night, my slick top, and Justin and Caleb was in the marked unit, and we were working the late night shift, and Justin was leaning on his car, and my driver's side was on their passenger side. So we wasn't driver's side to driver's side. We didn't pull up like that. The way he pulled up next to the station is he pulled up where the driver could walk out into the station. So when I pulled up, I was on their passenger side. Well, Caleb was sitting on the passenger side, so I was talking to him because Justin was inside. Well, Justin comes out, and he's leaning down on the driver's side door of his car, talking through his car all the way over through Caleb to me. And we're just having a conversation, And about that time, his eyes looked like they came out of his head, and he just took off running. And I'm thinking, are we getting ready to be shot or something? So here I am trying to look around real fast, see what's going on. So I hit my lights, and I'm like, are we getting ready to be ambushed? So I'm like, Justin, where'd you go? So I get out of the car, and he was like, man, you're not going to believe what happened. And I was like, try me. He's like, I was talking to you, and on the other side of your car, with your window down, I saw a face. And this is a very, very, very old town. It's on the Ohio River. And I said, what did the face look like? So he described it to me and everything. And I was like, huh. So we finished our shift and everything. And I went home and I was thinking about more and more of the description of the face. And I'm like, So the next day, I drove down to the station because I knew he was working. And I had a picture of my grandfather when he was young, when he was in the Marines. So I pulled the picture up. And I said, Justin, let me ask you something. Is this the guy you saw? And he turned white.
Oh, wow.
He's like, oh my gosh. He goes, that was exactly him. But he didn't have the hat on or that type of clothes. So, I told my dad about it, and he's like, he's just watching over you because he was a police officer and he retired from Louisville.
Well, they do come visit us, and they do show up when we need them.
Yeah, but Justin didn't have to run. I thought we was going to be shot or ambushed,
Well, he wasn't used to having people show up.
Well, I'm not used to having a police officer run either. So that was really interesting. So, like I said, on my mom's side of the family, people do come back. A lot of paranormal experiences, a lot of activity. Last night, I was sitting on the couch and I heard a big boom, like somebody smacked the wall. And now we do have new people that moved in, so I kind of blame it on that. When my daughter was living here, right before she moved out, I had one of those doggy gates in the hallway. Get my hand in it, and to move it, you have to push the lever over, lift up, and move the gate. Right. So you have to slide the button, lift up to open the gate. Well, I'm sitting on the couch watching my, ghost shows and stuff, and blam! I damn near jumped off the couch.
What fell?
Yeah. And my daughter opens up her door and she said, Dad, did you fall again? I'm like, no, I'm good. Everything's all right. So I'm sitting on the couch. And I'm like, I know exactly what that noise was. That was the doggy gate. So I waited a couple of minutes. I go over and look at it, and it's tilted over and half open. And it looked like somebody kicked it so hard it took the paint off the walls.
Wow.
Now, this is the ones you have to screw the bolt or tighten the bolt to put pressure on the walls to get the gate to stay. And I tightened them pretty darn tight. And it was, like I said, so much pressure, it knocked off paint on both sides of the wall.
Wow.
And of course, I never did tell my daughter because she would freak out, She's into all this stuff too, but she can't sleep at night if she watches or hears anything like that. She's into Bigfoot too, so right.
Now you talk UFO, so let's hear about your UFO experiences.
Well, I tell you what, growing up out in the country, there's a lot of things that you can see because you don't have the city lights. And you got to remember, I'm 48 years old, so if we go back to me being 15, 14, 13, living out in the country, it's dark. And Bobby Nation was a good friend of mine. We went to the same school. His granddad, Mr. Nation, owned a huge farm, had ponds on it, and stuff. And we always camped out up there and run lines to catch catfish, and we would catch him and release them, and he on the rock quarry up on the Grange. We make a long story short, one night we couldn't sleep, so we were out there messing in the pond, and about 1:30 at night, 1:45 approximately. He said, "Hey, Grizzly," he said, look at this light." I'm like, "What light?" I looked and I said, "Wow, what is that light?" I said, "It's not an airplane." I was like, "It's probably a helicopter," but it wasn't blinking, and it was like a more of a purplish color light. But
Yes.
it looked like a helicopter flying, but it wasn't making any noise. And it was shooting a beam down. So we're sitting there, we're not even moving. We're sitting there, we're watching it, and it comes probably 150 yards from us and stops. And I'm like, this can't be happening. And Bobby goes, "My dad told me he sees a lot of strange things around here. We got a lot of cattle and stuff." And I'm like, "Where are you getting at? Cattle mutilations? Don't tell me you got that stuff." Because that was pretty hot back then. And we looked up, we stared at it, and it just shot straight up in the air, and it got so small, looked like it disappeared, like it left Earth.
Wow.
And it was very fast. I'm talking like the snap of your finger. And Bobby goes, "Grizzly, we didn't see nothing." I'm like, "Absolutely." And we saw quite a bit of stuff before out there on his farm, camping and being juveniles. My mom and dad had a pool, and, they would invite family over to swim at night. And I remember when myself and Tom was swimming, I told Tom, I said, "Look, stop." I said, "Turn around." I said, "Look up in the sky." And he said, "What am I looking for?" I said, "Just stare in the sky and you'll see something moving." And he did. He watched it. He's like, "Oh, it's a satellite." I'm like, "No, it's not a satellite." I said, "Because it went up, then it went down." I said, "Watch it." And this one kind of went into a loop a couple times and went up.
Huh.
And he was like, "Did you just see that?" I was like, "Yeah, I saw that." Then it got real bright and it just shot off backwards. And it looked like it disappeared. He was like, "I know I had a few beers,
Wow.
but I know that just happened." I'm like, "Yeah, it did, because I saw it too."
It happened.
So, yeah. So when it comes to UFOs, I have quite a bit experiences with them. Not actually encountered them or any aliens, but I've seen quite a few things that are unexplainable. Yes. So,
Now, how do we get a hold of you and what's your website?
sure. The best way to get a hold of me is anywhere on Facebook. Is Grizzly is on the Hunt. Uh, I've got Grizzly is on the Hunt page. Then on Facebook, I'm sorry, I got a bad memory here. Bad memory. Let me pull it up real quick. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I got so many Facebook groups going because of the paranormal and stuff. I also have Sasquatch, Dogmen, Cryptids, and Unknown Creatures. You can get me on there. Also, Grizzly on the Hunt. You can also
What
reach out
about
to
your
me.
YouTube channel?
Oh, Grizzly's on the Hunt on YouTube. Yep, you sure can.
Okay.
You can email me if you want to be on my show at any time for paranormal or psychics. At it's Grizzly, the paranormal at gmail.com. Once again, that's grizzly, the paranormal at gmail.com.
And then if you want to reach me, kellyjoepsychic.com, or call me for a private reading, 561-33-5367.
Awesome.
So, what was one of your scariest but fascinating experiences?
Train the officers on the back roads that were dead ends and teaching them some techniques with arm bars and some takedowns of how to get people out of vehicles that refuse to get out of vehicles once you got the door open. Besides breaking the glass and opening them up that way.
Wow.
And I looked, and this lady in white just walked behind the car, and I'm like, "Who? Hey guys, who's this lady? And what's she's doing out here?" They're like, "What lady?" I'm like, "That lady." There was just somebody just walked behind the car. They're like, "Was she in like a white nightgown?" I'm like, "Yeah." People see her in town all the time, and I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm just telling you." Then I was like, then I got the jeepy creepies because it looked like a real person. She had kind of hair to her neck or on her shoulders, and it looked like a white nightgown, like
Wow.
like you would sleep in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you really saw her.
yeah, I really did. Because when I was in the middle of teaching, the officers, I was like, "Hey, what's she doing out here?" And I wanted them to check on her. I mean, she looks like she wasn't wearing anything on her feet when I first looked at her before she walked behind the car. And, does she need help? Was she stranded? Did she get dropped off? Was she lost? There's a ton of things that I was going to ask or look into. But I mean, everybody kept telling me nobody walked behind the car. And I'm like, you're all punking me out, right? Because I was still new on the department. I came from
Mm.
another department to help this department out. So, because my friend at the time, he was the chief. So, yeah.
Yeah, I
And,
have that
and you
problem too. I never know if they're real or Memorex. Like I picked
see,
up a
and it,
kid that was in a gray, like a reenactment. He was like the gray Union, uh, in Union garb. And I gave him a ride, and he goes, "Oh, ma'am, this has been going on for so long." And all of a sudden, he just faded out and disappeared. you, it's like, girl, I'll see people walking and they're spirits. Like there's a spot where a kid got killed on the road where I live, and I saw him walking with his little sheltie, and he had like a beard, mustache, reddish hair, and a green, like an army jacket. And I'm like, I said, "Do you need help?" He goes, "No, thank you." And then he just disappeared. He like
oh
faded.
no, I'll be
Yep.
gone. Yeah, I couldn't
Happens to
handle
me all the
seeing stuff
time.
like that all the time. Yeah, no, and I
I am
and
a
I can tell
medium.
you this: some of the people that do experience paranormal encounters, whether it's Sasquatch, Dogman, UFOs, ghost, I'll tell you that they've been man enough to tell me they wet themselves, and sometimes some of them have come down with PTSD,
Wow.
especially with Sasquatch Dogman, that they can't wrap their head around it because, all of our lives we were told what does and does not exist.
Right.
What we see is not what we have seen. So, and there's some people that just can't handle it, you know, and now they stay out of the woods. They don't go fishing. They don't go hunting. You know, they get near the woods, they freak out, and I mean, it's just crazy.
I know
And
it
now
ruins
they're
it for them. They
affected all
don't
their
feel safe.
life. No, they don't. You know, they really don't. So, what other
No,
questions do you have?
I now have you gotten to go on like a ghost investigation ever?
Oh yeah, down in Louisiana, I did. Yes. You know, and
So
the
what was
thing
that like?
was,
Tell us about it.
down we went down there. We all had EMF detectors, and nobody brought a spirit box, and we went around the Alamos where we started. And you know, I didn't realize the Alamo was that small. The Alamo is small down there, and I always
Oh, I didn't
pictured
realize
it
it was
as a
small
big
either.
place.
Hmm. That's
So we
interesting.
started there, and we went around to some of the bars where Teddy Roosevelt shot off around in one of the bars, and you can still see the bullet hole, and the bullet's still in there. And we went to like 9 or 10 places, and we didn't register anything. Now, sometimes we got excited, and our EMF detectors went off the chart, but it was the power lines underneath the sidewalks or something. We found that out real
Oh,
quick. So yeah, it was like, what a debunker, you know. You get excited, you finally get a hit. Nothing on the recorders or anything like that. So it was like a bummer. But we had no experience that night. But it was fun going around all the places that had actual history and so forth.
oh,
You
yeah, all that
know.
history, neat.
Yeah, down there in
Now,
Louisiana.
oh yeah, there's all kinds of ghosties there,
Louisiana and
all
Texas with
kinds of
the
history.
Alamo. Yeah, there really is. So no. Now I've got equipment. I've got a spirit box and all that. I'll be honest with you. I'm afraid to turn it on by myself. I got the handheld EMF detectors. I'm afraid to use that by myself. So where I'm moving to, there is a group of ghost hunters, which is awesome. I'm going to team up with and film them, and we're going to go on some hunts together. So I'm real
Oh,
excited
that's
about that.
fun.
Yeah. Then I've got some Bigfoot investigators in the area too, that are on the other side of the bridge and over here in the same state as I live in. So that's going to be interesting. So yeah, I'll be out in the field reporting
Neat.
and
Walking
also
out in the
investigate at the
woods.
same time. So,
Neat.
yep. Now, if you ever see me try to run because I'm on a cane and we see something and you see somebody accidentally trip and fall, I'm sorry, but they took one for the team because I'm getting down there somehow. That's the
Hmm.
truth.
Well, do you have anything else to add? Like one of your experiences? Like, now, what age did you start seeing stuff? Were you real young?
Yeah, I want to say I was probably 13 to 15, somewhere around that age. Uh, what's really strange when you just asked me that question, something popped in my head is that what really stuck with me during the years in law enforcement and training, you know, is I mean, we got training from, you know, the FBI, the ATF, Homeland Security. I mean, you named it, even the private civilian classes uh, for interviewing, interrogation techniques and stuff. Of course, I got many books on it. I was fascinated by it. I was fascinated by micro expression. I got into handwriting analysis, and this private company or public company hired me. And what I did is I would interview workplace violence, suicide ideations, employee theft, get confessions and dollar amounts out of them. And they could not figure out why I always did so well more than anyone. And when my daughters would bring their friends over, they would say, "Don't lie to my dad. He's a human lie detector. He knows the truth, so don't even try." And they would giggle. And she's like, "I'm telling you the truth. If he asks you a question, you better answer it." And, especially with the boyfriends, is that, I'll get them alone and start asking them a few questions here and there and see how they react. But, I've always been good at it. And I've been so good at it, it kind of hurts because, your close friends or your family members, when they don't tell you the truth, it hurts. And my boss's bosses always hated me for it because I'd put my hand up. They're like, "Damn you, Grizzly." And I'm like, "Look, just tell me. I don't need to know. And don't give me a Clinton answer either,
Yeah.
half true and half false." They're like, "I don't know how you're so good." So when I moved to a different branch of this company in a different location, one of the bigwigs brought me a statement and said, "Who's telling the truth and who's lying?" I was like, "Okay." And 3 minutes and 45 seconds later, I told him who was telling the truth, why, who was being deceitful, and what to look for and what they're going to say in the interview and everything. And he thought, "Yeah, you looked at it that quick." Remember, handwriting analysis tells a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And two, you have your gift of that. Your
yeah,
gift is
from all the
right
training
on. You can tell if
and
somebody's lying
yes,
or not.
yeah. And they brought individuals in, and they looked at me and they're like, "You're not going to partake in this. We're going to find out ourselves." And
Yeah.
55 minutes later, they would come out, they'd come over to me and they're like, "How did you know all this?" I said, "Because you showed me the statement. That's why. That's why when people want you to write something, they want to see something. They don't want you to
Right.
type it. They want to write it out, especially police departments, especially if they're
That,
good with handwriting analysis, because it tells a lot about your character. It really does. How hard you press, how far below the lines you go. Do you write at an angle?
I need to interrupt you for just one more minute. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I enjoyed having Grizzly on, and I'll see you December 19th, and I'll do readings on that show. Thank you.
You still there, Kelly Joe?
All right. There. That my show ended.
Oh, did it?
So
Okay.
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm always glad to be a part of anybody's show. That's not a problem at all. So, when it comes to you, how did you find out that you had powers or gifts or abilities?
Well, when I was 2, I could always see. I had a tall man standing over my crib. And I asked my mom, because I talked early, I said, "Mom, who is that big man that's standing over my crib?" I said, "He's like 6'6", a big, man." And that was my grandpa Owens, my mom's dad's dad. And I always had dead people standing at the end of my bed since I
Oh,
was a kid.
wow.
And they would like crowd me, and I know who they all were, or if a neighbor died, I would see them in their garden or something. And I told Mrs. Laura was her name, and I said, I just saw Mrs. Laura in the garden. And she goes, Kelly Joe, she just passed away. It's like, oops. But I didn't know any better. I thought everybody could see dead
Wow.
people.
Did
Like
they
my
just look
grandma.
normal?
It was just normal to me. They looked like you and me, you
Wow.
know, and I've always been that way. I've always seen and heard, dead people, and they're just as real as you and me. Like I never know if it's me sitting on a bench and somebody plop down, tell me their whole life story. And I'll converse with people, like that boy in my car. I thought he was a reenactment actor. He was a ghost.
How can you live like
So
that?
I've always been, well, it's just natural to me. It's like breathing. And it's so nice to be able to help people and give them closure because I can get idioms and sayings and all that. And it's like, to me, it's just, I can go to like traveling. My friends loved going with me because we'd always see the historicalness of mine. I'd pick up on it, like going to an
Wow.
old town or something. Like I visited Jerome, Arizona, and I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I said, "What is all this soot?" It's just as real to me as it has happened then. And I said, "We need to go to an information place because there's soot," you know. And I went and I asked what happened there, and there was like a cave in. There was mines underneath the town, and there was a cave in, and all the men passed on. And then all the spirits came to talk to me, and I told my girlfriend, I said, "You got to get me down the mountain. They're all bugging me. Get me down now."
Wow.
So, yeah. Or we had to go release a spirit that was stuck in the museum. We got up before coffee and breakfast, and I he was bludgeoned, and he had painted the Virgin Mary in the jail cell. I said, "Well, we got to go there." It was in Winslow. I said, "We got to go there, and I got to go talk to the spirit and tell him to cross over. And after that, we can go have breakfast and coffee." So my girlfriends were good sports. We all went down there, and we just went and did it, and then went and had breakfast. No biggie.
Oh my. See, I don't know. That's totally different. I couldn't imagine me sitting
Well,
here right now and look over to my
uh,
left and be people sitting there with me.
but
Oh, he broke up a little. There you go.
yeah, I can see him. Yeah, I can see when it's like one time I was visiting a friend in Wisconsin, and we were passing an old farmhouse that was dilapidated, and all of a sudden the farmer comes walking right along with us. And he goes, "Well, are they going to have to tear the house down?" I said, "Yeah, because the foundation is all goofed up." He goes, "Can you make sure that they don't dig up underneath that oak tree? Can you tell somebody to tell somebody that buys it? Because my wife and daughter is buried there." I said, "Okay." I
Wow.
said, "This man knows the people that are going to buy this land." I said, "He'll tell them not to dig there." So, and he says, "Okay, fair enough." And he just disappeared, and we kept on with our evening.
So how
But
did
it's
that
just
affect you
normal.
growing up?
Well, I always saw dead people. I just always was a weird kid. I didn't know that everybody couldn't see the school marm on the porch. I learned not to say so much in school. All the
Right.
kids thought I was rich.
Well, I mean, That's something. I mean, that's and that's always fascinated me with people that have gifts, especially your type. I mean, how
People
did
call
it
me up
affect you? Go ahead.
and they ask me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They'll call me up. Go ahead. They'll call me up and ask me for a reading for the passed on person. I can usually get their cadence and what they wanted to say. Like there was a little boy that fell off a horse and he died instantly because he hit his head. I said, well, blunt force trauma, but he's fine. He goes, you know, he rides shotgun with you. I was telling the dad that. And he goes, yeah, that's what he'd always say, shotgun. And he laughed and he cried. And he knew it was really his son. So
Wow.
there's a nice, happy element to this that you bring closure to the family.
Yeah, I could
And I've worked on
imagine.
murder cases.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How'd that go?
real good. When I was 16, I worked with another psychic and they handed me a piece of tile. And I worked on a case in Hyannis, Massachusetts. I've never been there. And the people stole $25,000 from the drug dealer and they had a baby. And they sent a hitman to hit the hitman. But the hitman that came to hit them used a 38 special. I remember this like yesterday. Cut a hole in the door, came in, shot the wife in the kitchen. She was making a martini up with a twist. And I'm a kid. How do I know what a martini up with a twist is? And then the man was shot on the couch. And then they left the baby. Then the hitman sent. There was another hitman sent the hitman, and then there was a dirty cop that took. They took $50,000 real, and then the cop took 25. So I told them about that before that happened, and then the big mob boss wanted to meet me, and I said, "Never mind, I quit."
Ew, I'm gone.
But I had names, roads, VIN numbers, all that,
Wow.
and I
How did
remember
that
it like
affect you? That's wild. That's really wild. I mean, then the mob boss wants to meet you? Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be swimming with the fishes.
no. Who is this person?
Right. So how did that affect you growing up, especially with relationships? Did it help you at all with relationships or did it make it harder?
Well, it made it hard when I was young. But when I got a little older, the people that I met through readings became my friends. So
That's
all my
really
friends
nice.
that I made in like 19 to late 30s became friends. So I have lifetime friends.
Wow.
And they're cool with me. They'll watch me and say, "Oh, Kelly Jo's talking to herself. She's gonna come tell us something." Or
So
don't
how
ask
many
her if you don't want to know.
Yeah, isn't that the
I'm
truth?
sorry.
No, you're fine. So how many people do you think that you actually help cross over and how do you do it?
Well, I thousands because I do graveyards and hospitals by accident. Like up in Wisconsin, I go to I call it the happy graveyard. There's a graveyard where there's little kids from the 1800s. They died of diphtheria, and they still have the knickers and they aren't trapped. They just come and go. The knickers and the hoop, and they play and they laugh and they run around. And then if one's trapped, I just ask that they all go to through light of God, highest energy. You know, um, like I went and visited um, North Carolina and all the graves were all goofed up and they didn't get right. And all the people in there were coming to me saying, well, they didn't get my gravestone right. I have so and so's gravestone on my gravestone. I said, guys, you need to calm down. I said, they did the best they could. There was a flood. Oh, okay. But they were all
Wow.
yapping at me, telling me that, oh, nah, 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 nah.
Wow. So did that affect
But
your
it's just,
relationships at all?
well, the one husband I had, he didn't know what to think of it. He was real scientific. So he says, "Well, there you go with your thing again." He called it the thing. But he didn't quite know what to think, you know. But
Well,
all in all,
there's nothing to think.
when I'm with somebody there, I let them know what I am, and they're okay.
Yeah,
You know.
well, times have changed, and now people are more acceptable of accepting people with powers and gifts and abilities than they were, when I was younger. Because when I was younger, if you saw Sasquatch or you had any psychic abilities, they would call you nuts or crazy. So,
And I was always encouraged by my mom.
really,
She was psychic. And dad, he was psychic too, but he didn't say it. But he could build anything. He was a welder, and he could fabricate anything you wanted. Like you could draw what you wanted in dirt, and he would totally fabricate whatever you needed fabricated, like you saw in your brain.
wow, wow.
So not everybody can do that.
Well, do you ever get
And then
scared
my
of it at
mom
all?
was what?
Do you ever get scared of it at all?
Well, when I was a kid, it was hard to understand because I could see both good and bad. But now, no, it don't scare me. I do investigations. I do cleansing and clearings of people in houses. Sometimes they have negative entities, and I've done that since age of 16 too. You can't let fear in
Wow.
when you're doing that. No fear.
Wow.
Like one
That's something
person
else.
was getting thrown across the room, and he goes, "Is it going to be like The Exorcist?" I said, "If it is, I'm leaving." It ain't going to be like that. But what was happening, he was getting thrown across the room, and his girlfriend had a boyfriend that died in a car accident, and he thought she was cheating on him, so he was throwing him across the room
Oh my
and thought that
gosh.
he didn't know he was dead. He had to explain to the ex-boyfriend that died in the accident, and then he has to throw the dude across, and then he needs to cross over, and she's his anymore.
Now that would totally freak me out. That would being
No, I
tossed
don't get
around and
that
not
frightened.
knowing why.
Well, I explained to him what happened, so that helped get a conclusion to the problem. But that's just a little
I'm
snippet of
surprised
stuff.
he didn't leave the girl.
Well, he liked
Girl,
it. He
there's something
wanted to get
wrong with
married.
you. Well, let me tell you something. The other
No, it's
day,
called
I'm not
ex-boyfriend.
Catholic.
He's very jealous. Oh
The other day,
my!
I'm not Catholic by any means. I'm Southern Baptist, but I have uh, fathers and priests that I go to bless my coins that have prayers on them for police, fire, EMS, and paramedics. And
Uh-huh.
I called Father Miguel up and was like, "Hey, I need some holy water." He said, "Chill, shitter." He said, "Just come by, let's say Friday." This is this past Friday at 9 o'clock. I said, "Okay." So, I meet him up there in front of the um, uh, not the stadium. That's like sports. What do you call it when people
Auditorium.
sit in church? Yeah, there we go, auditorium. And I was in front of the auditorium. He comes and unlocks the door, and we shake hands. We ask how each other's doing and stuff. And he walks in the closet and he's humming and stuff and shuts the lights off. And he walks in the auditorium with no lights on. And he just disappears in the dark. And I'm like, what's he doing? the holy water is right here by the door, right as you walk in. And evidently they have more than one holy water hole in that church. So he comes back out and he's holding 2 wine bottles and he's smiling. I'm like, are we drinking today? He's like, wine bottles. Like, and I came from holy water and he's got wine bottles. This is great. I'm not going to say no to a sampling. Evidently they drink wine, when they break bread and everything else. He hands me the bottles and they're wet. He said, is that enough holy water? And I looked at him and I'm thinking, do I look like I need that much holy water? So I got 2 big bottles of empty wine, right? Now, see me on a traffic stop, right? Here I got bottles that are open because the seals are broken and there's liquid in there. And try to explain that to an officer, it's holy water.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so I got some little containers and I thought instead of transferring the bottles into the little containers with the cross on them, where you can fling it and sling it, I'm just going to have those 5 little bottles filled up, take them to the church, have them fill them up. So that way I don't have to worry about spilling it and everything else. But anyways, yeah, I don't see how you do it. More power to you. I'm glad that you have the capability of doing stuff like that. It's very interesting and really intriguing because I couldn't imagine just sitting here and watching somebody in my kitchen just walk around and do stuff and not knowing if they're real or not. That's really, I don't know what to call it.
Well, I mean, you can tell if they're a ghost or not, but sometimes you can't. You know what I mean? Like have a great conversation with somebody, and then they just disappear.
Yeah, I'll mess myself and probably pass out. I probably would.
I don't know. It's just everywhere you go, there's spirit. And we have history of layers of history. You can't go anywhere without history.
Well, see, okay, and I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, Grizzly's not trying to bring up anybody's religion, so just bear with me. And see, when I was raised, this is going to be wild. Sorry, Dad. I know I keep bringing this up from time to time. We used to take records and play them backwards at church. We had a burn barrel out back, and we used to burn records.
Well,
you remember that time where?
Yeah, when they had a saying on the back, you play it backwards and it says horrible things.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if a lot of people remember that or not, but I'm only 48. So you got to remember that I must have been 8, 9, 10 years old. I mean, they thought I was going to be a preacher when I grew up. But the problem I had with the spirits is that the way I was taught that the spirits could not come back in the King James Bible, from what I remember, because I always questioned the preacher on it. He always says, no, when you pass on, you either go to 2 places, and that was it. And I'm like, then why are there spirits here? And why is there ghosts? Why is there hauntings? And he always says those are negative energy, and those are people taking on your loved ones' looks, acting like them. And I didn't believe that.
Well, there are tricky spirits, but when there's ghosts, either they love the place so much they just decide to stay, and you can cohabitate with them, or they have unfinished business, like murder or accidental death or, suicide or something like that. And then sometimes if something happened really quick, like a war, something, they all died in a bunch, it's like an energy track, an energy burn, and it instant repeats. It's
Wow.
energy burned right into that time frame, you know.
Wow.
And then so for that, some things aren't, they're just residual, but other ones are intelligent. And when it's an intelligent, you always, you know, ask if they can be released and go to the light and through the light, of God. You
Yeah.
know. Now, if they want to stay and they're a kind spirit, they aren't going to hurt you or anything, that's fine. You can go have a day. And then if you're doing remodeling to the house, you always say, okay, guys, we're gonna we're gonna make it better.
Yeah, I guess there is more activity when you do any remodeling or restoration. So that is true.
Right. It
But
shakes them up because I like the way it used to
yeah,
be.
yes. But let me ask you
And you
this.
like, what you
So,
doing? What you doing?
uh-huh, right. So let me ask you this. Have you ever seen somebody go to the gates of hell instead of heaven?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I've had experiences where I've had somebody that was in torment.
Oh, wow. What do you actually
And
see?
it's like it's like they're in their own hell. You know, uh, you can see demons and monsters, and and I've also seen spirits that are stuck in limbo, the between place.
Huh.
So you don't want to go to the astral realm when you're traveling and trying to help spirits, because the astral realm is trapped souls. You want to get above that.
Wow.
you
And
know
how
and then
did
sometimes,
so I guess that's what you call purgatory?
yeah, if you want to call it that, yeah.
But how do they get there and
They're
why?
lost wandering souls.
But why are
Well,
they
they're
there?
just lost. you know
Huh.
they don't know which way to go. It confused. you know that's just my take. I'm not saying that's the only thing, you know but there most of the time it's confused souls. And
Wow.
sometimes when and I always say that sometimes when they, like suicide or murder or quick death, they go to what I call the green room, and it's called the healing place until they're healthy and healed.
Really?
Heal their soul. And I call it the green room.
Oh, that's very interesting. Have your
And
loved
you always
ones
have
that
free
have
will.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you always have free will. We're the only animal on earth that God gave free will to.
Wow.
You always have choice.
So do you believe in Sasquatch and dogmen and stuff
Oh
and
yeah.
cryptids?
Oh yeah. I've seen a Sasquatch.
Oh, that's
And I
right. Yeah,
also
you have.
saw one when I went out. We went out one night with my friend in Wisconsin, and he goes, "Hey, Kelly Joe, watch. There's a Sasquatch over here." And hero bang on the tree. And I'm like, okay. And he banged on the tree, and then over yonder there was another bang on the tree. So like it was like bang bang and then bang bang bang. So there really was.
Wow.
And he was answering them. And then we heard like the whoop calls that they make.
Yeah.
And we heard one like over to our right, and there was like more than one. Then we heard one over to our left, way behind us, and it kept bouncing back and forth. So after a while, we listened to that. We like, I said, I want to go now. Can we go now? We did.
So you're taking on grizzlies, you're all going, I'm gone.
But I'm open to experiences, and I don't get real scared about stuff, like
Well, I
UFOs and
mean, I guess you don't. It's growing up like you have and experiencing everything like you have, and I mean,
I
I
want
just
to see
can't.
what it is, you
Well,
know.
there's been people out there in the woods for 20 or 30 years have never seen it. And there's people out in the woods that walk out in the woods within a half hour they encounter them. It's wild. I mean, I actually interviewed people on Travel Channel and the History Channel, and I find out they never experienced Bigfoot, and I'm thinking, but they're calling you an expert, and you got all these books out, and you never saw one. I was like, ooh, didn't know that. Didn't mean to expose that part of you. It's just a natural question that a lot of people like to ask. So it's amazing because I got this one guy I interviewed, and what he does, he actually travels around the United States, and people contact him to deal with the not so nice Sasquatches that does actually tear up property, like siding off the houses, rip off boat covers, tear up garages, tear up vehicles. Uh, you know, that scare the heck out of the family. They try to open up their doors, they peek in their windows, and
I've
so
seen
him and his
shows. Yeah.
nephew,
Ooh.
yeah, him and his nephew
Now
go
that would
around.
scare me.
Yeah. So and they would actually bang on the house. I mean that. I don't know. I don't think I can deal with stuff like that. So I really don't.
No, no, that
So
would
how can
not.
you tell a real psychic and medium from a fake one?
Well, number one, uh, the fakers, they don't get much right and they ask leading questions, you know. Now, if you're a real reader, you don't have to ask questions, you know. Sometimes you'll ask a question like you can feel like there's a person around them, like, do you have a bow now? Well, yeah, but you feel the energy of the person. But that's about the only question that you'd ask. You just read and tell about job, leader stuff. Lots of times people don't understand what I'm doing is I can see future out. Like if you're going to move, I can tell you what house you're going to get, how many rooms, what the layout is, like it's a U or a T, or it's like they cut off the roof. Um, Job prospects, um, the gentleman flavor of your gentleman, blonde hair, brown hair,
Wow.
like I'll say, oh, I think you're going to marry a blondie. You're going to date, but you're not. But I don't like blondes. Oh, well, can't help it when I see.
Uh,
Oh, he has a beard. Ew, I don't like beards. Oh, well, I'm just telling you what I see. I don't have any need to be right. I'm not your mom. No skin off my nose. But I'll, but I just tell him what I see and I can just click on and read.
Wow. So what do you see for my
Not
love to? What do you see for my love to be?
well, your next move is going to be fabulous. Are you building your house?
No.
Okay, but it'll be already built, but you're going to extend rooms and fix things.
Right.
I see you doing that. You'll have a porch. You'll always have a room for your um, recordings and all that stuff, like an on
That is
slash.
correct.
And then you'll have 2 rooms, a main bedroom and a guest bedroom. You always have to have some place for
Right.
people to stay, and 2 bathrooms. That's your thing that you need. When you are with a lady, I see you with like a real strawberry blonde. She has green eyes and she's a petiter.
What's a
Tiny,
petite?
a
Oh,
tiny
tiny.
person, petite.
Okay. Petite. I never
uh,
heard of a teener.
a petiter,
I learned something new
petiter.
today, ladies and
It's
gentlemen.
like a petite
A
little
petiter.
person, patiner. And
I got you.
she's quite aware and attuned too. And you guys start off as friends, but she falls in love with your sense of humor. That's the main thing
Oh
that gets
Lord, do
her.
I have a good sense of humor? I'm telling you.
Yep, and she loves that about you, and you're kind and considerate. You know how to woo a lady.
When do you
Coming in
think
and
this will transpire?
well, I'm looking in the calendar. Maybe March.
That's awful
You'll be open
strange.
to that, but you're going to be doing expos, and you're going to do like the cryptive. It's like Comic Con, but it's like the Crypticon thing, the
Right.
jiggy. I don't know what it's called. For lack of flavor, like ice cream. And then you're going to write a couple of books, and you're going to get picked up by a main source with your YouTube channel, and then you're also going to be on like SMX, Cyrus, and SMX.
You're actually is going spot on with everything right now.
Well,
I have
that's
many
what
new
we
things
do.
coming next year.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Kelly Joe's let some of it out of the bag, ladies and gentlemen.
And you do have to have a tooth that needs to be fixed. Get that tooth fixed.
A new tooth that needs to be fixed. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Make sure and schedule an appointment with the dentist. That's for sure.
So
That's
that's a
interesting.
sort of sample of how I do a reading.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Now, how do people get a hold of you?
KellyJoePsychic.com. Phone number is 533-5367 for a private reading.
Okay.
And I'm
Can you say
also
it one
on
more time?
YouTube, Kelly Joe Psychic. I do clips on there.
Oh, okay. Great. Great. That's awesome. That really is. I mean, you have been very interesting, and it just really blows me away how people can do things like you are, and how people are blessed with things.
It is. It's a God-given gift.
It's just very amazing. And I can never understand why people get them, why people are born with them. I've seen them come from their parents down. I see it skip a generation, come from the grandparents. I see it skip 2 generations, come from the great grandparents. So, but I know a lot of
Well, my
people
great grandma
have
was
the
still there.
capability of doing it. Oh, really? That's really interesting. So, what would you say to the people out
She
there in the
was a
world?
healer and herbalist.
Really? Now, your loved ones that has passed on, unfortunately, do you get to talk to them on a regular basis?
Yeah, true story. My
See,
mom passed away. It's going to be 2 years, December 17th. And right after she passed on, we used to call, "Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Kelly Joe." And at 5 o'clock in the morning, she woke me up and said, "Good morning, Kelly Joe."
see, now that's one
And
thing I would
then
always cherish.
I just recently had a neat thing happen. My battery died in my car battery.
Uh
And
huh.
my mom didn't have a car in 2020. or didn't go to the auto shop or anything. I go there. My mom's name is Joyce Bennett. And it came up on the screen with her address and phone number in 2020. And I
What?
started, yep. I started crying. I said, thanks, Mom. I needed that.
Oh, that's wild.
I said, how the heck did Mom's name get in there? She was never here. So
That's
that lets you
wild.
know spirit.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. See, stuff like that. I mean, how can you explain that? You know? I mean, how can you? I mean, what was your impression when stuff like that happened?
I just said, thanks, Mom. I know that you hear me. I just know it's Mom. It's from universe, out of the blue.
That's wild.
And it makes
See, something like that I will never get tired of.
Yep.
I wouldn't. That's something I would always cherish. You know?
Our loved ones are always around us. That's what I'll tell the world. You can't kill energy. Energy is neither destroyed, created nor destroyed. It just changes form.
Wow. See, that's one precious gift that I would love to have, especially with family members. You know,
But
because
you
let me tell
do,
you
huh?
something.
You're very, you know, you feel them. You have a gift. You can feel them. And they come visit you. They're all around you. Your grandpa is all around you.
Really, that's nice to know. I guess he's the one that gives me signs from time to time, makes little noises in the kitchen and does
Right,
stuff. So,
right.
like I said, he was a prankster.
Yep. And he likes to knock pictures. He's saying, I'm the one who does the picture thing.
Oh, great. Okay, that explains why one of the pictures fell off the wall.
Yep. Well, that's what he's saying. That's what I hear him saying. I couldn't possibly make this up. Pulled that one
Grandpa,
out,
man, I
Doc.
love you. You know, that's really nice to know because, you know, on his deathbed, one thing he wanted to see and he didn't. He wanted to see me play the trumpet, the bugle, because I just got started into it, you know, in school.
He heard
Because he
you,
loved the bugle.
and you're going to be able to play taps.
I'm gonna be able to play what?
He says you're going to be able to play taps. Taps. TAPS.
Like tap dancing?
No, it's called taps for
Oh,
the service
taps.
member.
No, now you just freaked me out because I've played that a lot after he passed, especially down at the lake, and it would
Well, he heard it.
echo for miles. And I would talk to people around the lake, and they're like, "Yeah, every night, like at 6 o'clock, we hear taps being played. We don't know where it's coming from." I'm like, "That's me." They're like, "What? You down there? We thought it was over here." Oh yeah, it's playing it. That's wild that you said that.
Well, I am
Yeah.
psychic. And I
Oh,
heard him
that's
telling me
true.
it. I am a medium.
Yeah, that's true.
I
That's
enjoy
that's wild.
thank you for helping.
That's wild. That really is. Well, Kelly Joe, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'd love to have you back. You know, I really would.
Oh,
It's
I'd love
been
to
a pleasure. It really has.
too. You have my number now, and you can call me and let me know.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'd love to.
Ladies
I've
and
enjoyed
gentlemen,
every minute of
Kelly Joe, the psyche, a true one in a million that actually can do things. So far, I've been really impressed with her talent and gifts. I could probably talk to her all night. It seems like we knew each other from another life or somewhere. I can't explain it. That's how comfortable I feel with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I saw
wild.
that. I saw that.
You did?
Yep.
That's interesting. See, that makes me speechless. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Grizzly. If you want to be on my show, email me, Grizzly, the paranormal at gmail.com. Once again, that's Grizzly, the paranormal at gmail.com. From coast to coast, all around the world, it's that time, ladies and gentlemen. We must say goodnight. Kelly Joe, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Good night. You too.
Thank you, and have a good
Bye-bye.
night. Bye-bye.